Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
This the monster from the swamps, Regis Reuquen Program.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Cordina, former IBF world champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 454 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman, and as ever these days I'm joined alongside my co-host, the main man himself, the former heavyweight world title challenger, Mr. Fast Eddie Chambers. Eddie, how you doing this week?
I'm doing great, my man. How about you?
Yeah, very well, my friend. So you're back from the Bahamas.
Yeah. It was a nice little trip, man. It was something that was well needed. The craziest thing is on cruises, they're famously known, at least for me and for most people that I know, that when you go on a cruise, make sure that you find a gym, because damn, the food is crazy, and all you're doing is literally you're stuck on a boat. It could be for days, up to days at a time. And most of the time you're eating. So that's the craziest thing. But thank God they had a great gym. And believe me, I utilized it. In fact, it got me to a nice rhythm with, training and getting prepared for a fight that we talked about a few weeks ago about that I'm going to be getting into eventually. And so now I'm in a nice little groove with that. And because of that cruise, which is not normally a good training in a cruise is not a good thing, and a vacation is not typically a good thing. But in this case, for me, it worked out well. So yeah, but I'm back and ready to get back to the real work.
No, it's great, man. It's great. You certainly deserved it. A nice little break, even though it sounds like you were working a little bit there. Anyway, let's dive straight into the review part of the show. This one took place last Friday, June the 21st at the Bolton Whites Hotel. We're going to start here with this one. It went down on Channel 5. Couple fights to mention on the undercard. Matty Harris now 7-1, a TKO for the heavyweight there in the second round against Yuri Bikatsu, now 10-31 with 3 draws. Bikatsu down twice in that fight. Also on the card as well, the Kazakh Sultan Zorbek, now 18-0. He's coming along quite nicely. A TKO for him in the first round. He had his opponent Roman Reynoso down 3 times in that first round. Reynoso now 22-5 with 2 draws. And then, the main event, Lyndon Arthur now 24-2, friend of the show. He managed to pick up a split decision victory over 10 rounds against Liam Cameron, who's now 23-6. The bookies felt that Lyndon Arthur would stop him, and I didn't understand why. I said, he's never been stopped before. I don't quite understand why they think that Lyndon is going to do it. It was for the vacant WBA Intercontinental Light Heavyweight title. Arthur as well came in overweight. He was deducted a point as well, Lyndon Arthur, for hitting his opponent after the bell at the end of the second round. And then Liam Cameron had a point deducted as well for a bit of rabbit punching that he did in the fight. And the point came off in round 6 for Cameron. But no, a good fight. Credit to Cameron, It was a big old step up for him. And he didn't disgrace himself at all. And I actually felt he showed quite a decent gas tank over 10 rounds. He definitely started bright. I think he was really, really good, actually. There was times where he'd put Lyndon Arthur on the ropes and he'd throw his hands in combinations. But then, he did start to tire a little bit in the mid-rounds. I think he closed the show pretty nicely, Liam Cameron. But, he definitely did seem to tire. I think he did get a second wind in the end. So, like I say, I don't think... I was quite impressed with his gas tank. I don't think he disgraced himself in that area. And to be honest, he didn't disgrace himself in any area. I felt he was matching Lyndon, skill for skill. Obviously, Lyndon, he's a classy fighter with a great jab. And when he used that jab, he was fantastic the other night. But it was a good, fun fight. And I think that if one man's stock goes up and the other one's doesn't, then I'd say it's probably Liam Cameron who kind of, gets a bit of an increase in his stock, whereas Lyndon Arthur was expected to blow this guy away and didn't do it. And obviously Lyndon Arthur still has, dreams of achieving big things in the sport. But no, it's good for Lyndon. Like I say, friend of the show, nice guy, coming off a loss last time out to Dimitri Bivol. He's now back to winning ways. Moving now to the York Hall in Bethnal Green, London, United Kingdom. Another friend of the show. Boxed over here, we had Casey Kadami. He's now 10-3 with 2 draws, a unanimous decision loss to Ryan Farag, now 22-5. People will remember that I tipped this on last week's show. I said it in my boxing group. We backed it, and Ryan Farag, I can't remember what the price was. I think it was just under 3-1, something like that, for Ryan Farag to win on points. I just felt it could happen, even though Casey Kadami was kind of fighting at a better weight for him than his last fight, where he picked up another loss there. But yeah, I don't know what's going on with Casey Kadami. Another great guy. I like his former trainer. I like his new trainer, Richie Sawyer, and obviously his former trainer, John Tandy. Both guys are friends of the show, friends of mine. But no, sad to see for Casey Kadami, because it was for the vacant Commonwealth Super Flyweight title, and it was a good opportunity coming off a loss to actually pick up a belt of some substance here in a winnable fight. I don't think Ryan Farag is the fighter he was maybe 6 years ago. He's been quite inactive, and I felt that Casey Kadami could, or should do enough to win this fight. I thought he'd do well to stop Ryan Farag, but he's a strong kid. He punches pretty hard, I've heard, on the pads. And, he was expected to win. He was the favourite to win. And, it's another setback for him, And I don't think he really can afford for this kind of stuff to happen at this point in his career. I just feel like we're not going to see, anything special out of Casey Kadami now. Maybe he lost the best parts of his career when he had those 3 fights against Ilyas Ahmed, because they went 10 rounds on 3 occasions, and I think that took a bit out of Casey Kadami, because he's now 10-3 with 2 draws, so it's not the prettiest of records. But all the best to him, and I don't know what he's gonna do from here, but obviously I'm hoping that whatever decision he decides to make, he's happy with. Moving now to the Fontaine Blue in Las Vegas, Nevada, USA. This one was on ESPN Plus. It was also on Sky Sports. Friend of the show, Troy Isley, with a unanimous decision win over 10 rounds for the WBO NABO middleweight title. Isley now 13-0. His opponent was undefeated. He's now lost his Javier Martinez, now 10-1 with a draw. Martinez deducted a point in round 7, and Isley deducted a point in round 9 for hitting low. No, quite a good performance from Troy Isley, because there was some people thinking that one was going to be a tough fight, but for me, the bits I did see, he did seem to cruise it from my recollection. Moving up the card once again as well, Andres Cortez, another friend of the show. He boxed here for the WBO NABO Super-Featherweight title over 10 rounds, and he got in there with former world title challenger Abraham Nova. Again, it was a decent fight, this one here. I feel like this was a little bit of an acid test, I think, for Andres Cortez. I think they've manoeuvred him very well. He's boxed some good fighters and stuff like that, but I think they've manoeuvred him quite well to get him into the position he's in. And I felt that this fight here against Abraham Nova could have been a much tougher fight than it ended up being. He won narrowly, but yeah, Nova boxed well. Again, I think Andres Cortez has quite a good defense. I don't think he got hit with anything too big, too clean. We know that Abraham Nova's a really good puncher, and he's got quite a unconventional style. It can be very, very effective. So yeah, Andres Cortez gets the narrow points win, like I say, and he moves on from here, and I'm sure he'll be going up and up in those WBO rankings. I'm sure Bob Arum will be really happy about that. And moving to the main event, Rafael Espinoza, now 25-0, the 6'1" featherweight. He picked up a TKO in the 4th round against Sergio Sanchez, now 22-2. Sanchez stopped for the 2nd time there. Sanchez down in the 1st round, the 3rd round, and the 4th round. I thought that Rafael Espinoza looked unbelievable the other night. Now, again, it was a world title defence. It was his first defence. Sergio Sanchez, obviously, we looked into his record. We saw that he quit on his Thor against Maurizio Lara in just 2 rounds, and that was the only kind of blemish he had, the only kind of big fight he really had, from my recollection. But yeah, Rafael Espinoza went in there and didn't waste any time at all. You've got to think about this. This is a freak when you actually think about it. 6'1" as a featherweight, and he's got a good chin. He's huge. And he punches really hard with both hands. You could see that. And he brought it to him with a fast pace. And, I just thought to myself, wow, he was so impressive. I mean, I loved what I saw the other night from him. It was another box ticked. And I think he's going to be such a handful. There's obviously other guys. There's other champions at featherweight. And, things can certainly get a bit spicier for him. But I tell you what, he's got such an effective style, man. Honestly, I loved it. Very aggressive. Like I say, if you've got a good chin but you can punch, that's one thing, because a lot of guys with big punches don't have the best of chins. This guy seems to have a good chin, seems to have good power in both hands. He's humongous and he sets a fast pace, and all of that there mixed into one. That is going to be a problem for anyone to deal with, especially at featherweight. So all the best to Rafael Espinoza. Looks like a hell of a fighter. Moving now to the Resorts World Arena in Birmingham, West Midlands, United Kingdom. This one was live on DAZN. This was the final card to mention of the review part. A couple fights to mention. Firstly, Cameron Vong is now 4-0. A unanimous decision for him over late replacement Jeff Afori, now 13-8 with 2 draws. Really good fight. I think Cameron Vong was quite impressive early doors, but then Jeff Afori really warmed into that fight and brought the fight to Vong. Put the pressure on him, and he certainly, earned his money, Jeff Afori. I think the scorecards in the end were probably a little bit too wide for Vong, in my opinion, because I know that from what I could see, Jeff Afori was really making Vong uncomfortable at times in that fight. Now, I don't think Jeff Afori won the fight. I know there's some people that were saying that, and I think that's a bit too much, but he certainly deserved more than, I think, the 2 rounds he got given over 10 or whatever it was. I can't remember exactly the scorecards now, but yeah, certainly there were rounds where he outworked Vong, and he really made him uncomfortable, put him on the ropes and kind of smothered him a little bit, wouldn't let him breathe. And it was a really good test. But you know what? Hats off as well to Cameron Vong, a young fighter who was boxing Jeff Afori in just his 5th fight. You've got to think, Jeff Afori gave Archie Sharp, who we'll be speaking to later on in the show, probably the toughest fight of his whole career. And Archie Sharp is right up there in the world rankings, as one of the best fighters in the world with a WBO at Super-Featherweight. So yeah, Jeff Afori is finding himself here at super lightweight after boxing Archie Sharp at super feather. He's up at super lightweight, and he's putting in a really good account of himself against Cameron Vong. But like I said, I don't want to deviate away from the point. For Cameron Vong to box Jeff Afori, even if it is at super lightweight, in just his 5th fight, that is a heck of a statement win, I think. Also on the card again, I tipped this one in the boxing betting group. Emma Dolan to win the fight on points against Shannon Ryan, which she did. I think that was about 4.5 to 1. I think it was 9 to 2. So yeah, like 4.5 to 1. Emma Dolan with the split decision win against friend of the show Shannon Ryan, now 7-1. And Emma Dolan, like I say, now 7-0. That one was for the vacant British and also Commonwealth super flyweight titles. Shannon Ryan down late in the 2nd round from a right hand. She was definitely shaken up. However, she was kind of knocked down in the end. I think like the first punch, that right hand did hurt her for sure. She did seem to be a bit dazed. But I think the punch that actually put her on the canvas was one to the back of the head. Initially, I felt that it was a good call from the referee. But then when I watched it, in the replay and stuff, I'm not entirely sure, and I can't remember exactly the scorecards now. I know it was obviously a split decision for Emma Dolan, but if that round wasn't scored a 10-8 and was scored a 10-9, I wonder if there would have been any difference with the scores in the end, because it was a close fight. And I think a lot of Ryan's work. You know, she was busy, she landed some big looking shots and stuff like that, but Dolan was, you know, when she kept it nice and long and used her jab, she was very effective and was winning rounds. But I think a lot of the big moments were with Shannon Ryan. Moving up the card once again, Lewis Crocker, now 20-0, a unanimous decision over 10 against Connor Walker, now 13-3 with a draw. Walker deducted a point in the 9th round for repeated low blows. Yeah, again, a really tough fight there for Lewis Crocker. Definitely going to have miles on the clock. I think he went into the fight a little bit too overconfident, thinking that he would beat Connor Walker with ease, just because he apparently, I think, stopped he stopped someone in sparring, I think, or was beating someone up in sparring who Connor Walker had lost to, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know who the person was, but yeah, I have to just start with this. I think that Connor Walker will feel very hard done by. A lot of people felt he won the fight. He set an extremely fast pace, a fast tempo throughout the fight. Not everything was landing cleanly, but he completely outworked Lewis Crocker pretty much for most of the rounds. Maybe like 8 of the 10 rounds, I felt he was outworking Lewis Crocker. But again, like I say, not everything was landing cleanly. Connor Walker showed up in just such an unbelievable shape. Like the pace he set and the fact that he could have done that for like 15 rounds was incredible. And also, what a nightmare of a fighter to fight as well. Connor Walker setting that fast pace and showed a heck of a chin, and not just a heck of a chin, but also a heck of a body, because he could take some thunderous body shots. Everything that Lewis Crocker threw all night long was with evil intentions, and he was loading up with massive shots. He was catching Connor Walker to the chin cleanly. He was catching him to the body with stinging, loud punches. You could hear him on the TV, but they were not moving Connor Walker. He was a man on a mission. I do think that Lewis Crocker, at times sort of did slow down and get tired. But when he boxed, when he actually decided to box and not just overload on the power and the power shots and stuff like that, I think he was doing well. It was effective. It was effective boxing, just trying to box Connor Walker from range as well. I think Lewis Crocker's got a good jab. But I think he just spent too long putting everything into these big punches, trying to get him out of there. And obviously, at some point it just wasn't going to happen anymore, and he'd thrown so many big punches with so much effort behind them, too many times, to the point where he really lost that snap on his punches and began to tire quicker than he probably would have done. So I think he'll improve from that. I think, he's probably going to learn there not to just go in there and try and seek and destroy and get a stoppage early doors. Maybe just go in there and, box for a few rounds, and maybe go to the body a few times and try and get your opponent to kind of slow down, and that's when you can step it up. But he decided to start fast and finish slow rather than start slow and finish fast. He couldn't sort of sustain that same power, that same, just that same oomph, later on in the fight. But did he do enough? I'm not entirely sure. I did back him to win, so of course I was happy when he won the fight. I felt that the odds were a bit too close, but in the end, the odds weren't too close. It was a fantastic performance from Connor Walker, and like I say, he will feel hard done by. How he lost unanimously, that one is really questionable. I don't know how all 3 judges gave the fight to Lewis Crocker. That is a bit strange. And yeah, also on the card as well, Tyler Denny, now 19-2 with 3 draws. The miracle just keeps on going. He was able to beat here Felix Cash and take his O. Felix Cash now 16-1. Cash was stopped in the end due to a cut on his right eyelid from an accidental head clash. They decided to go to the cards after I think it was it 4 rounds or 5 rounds, and it ended up being a technical decision for Tyler Denny. I felt that Felix Cash, considering he'd been out the ring for a year and a half, he started quite sharp. He looked quite sharp. It was a difficult kind of fight to score, I felt. I know that Tyler Denny was kind of busy and, tried to bring the pressure to Felix Cash, but it just seemed like such a premature ending. I don't think Felix Cash fully got going in the fight. I do think he got caught with a couple of big-looking shots as well from Denny that seemed to bother Cash. That was a little bit surprising because obviously Denny's not known as a big puncher by anyone's stretch of their imagination. But yeah, you know, sometimes boxing just isn't so fair, and I do feel sorry for Cash because, like I say, year and a half out, comes back, gets a chance for the European title. He's the favourite, and you know, he loses in a fight that ends prematurely, and straight away Tyler Denny's already announced his next fight. He's going to be on the, you know, the big card that we're going to talk about in the news part. So yeah, I don't know where Felix Cash goes. He probably goes back to hiding under a rock, but we do need to see him back active, and ideally it would have been good to just see a rematch so that we could have actually seen the fight play out in its full entirety. But we're not going to get that now because obviously Denny is going in other directions, and you can't blame him for that. I am very, very happy for Denny, but I'm just a bit gutted for Felix Cash because, like I said, I don't think he got going, and I think the fight just ended a bit too soon, you know. And yeah, he did look quite sharp, but he was outworked a little bit there in the you know, in those early rounds. But like I say, the fight just didn't get to play out properly. That is it though for the review part of the show. We're now going to welcome this week's special guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the undefeated super-featherweight contender. It is, of course, Mr. Archie Sharp. Archie, welcome back on the show, my man.
Thank you for having me back on. It's good to be back. How are you?
Yeah, my friend, always good when speaking with you, Archie. So we last spoke just last month, so not long ago at all. But yeah, a lot has happened since then. Obviously, you've had a fight in that time and also had your next fight announced. Let's start with the fight you did have at York Hall. Reuquen Facundo Arce. I'm probably demolishing his name. But yeah, May the 11th, I was there, obviously. What a dramatic fight, Arch. Nightmare start. Talk me through it.
Yeah, like you say, nightmare of a start. First one back with Frank in Queensbury, back on TNT. And then, walked out, first 30 seconds, got caught cold with a good shot. And, put me down, obviously, in the first round. So that was very foreign territory for myself. And, we had to, well, like I said, I've never been there before. So it was a matter of adapting and getting up and getting through it and doing what we needed to do. And pleased that I managed to get through for the rest of the fight. To be fair, like you say, if you watch from the second round to the end of the fight, if you watched it from the second, like I say, you wouldn't expect anything went wrong. I was in full control. I was dominating the fight for the rest of the fight. And but like I say, yeah, just got caught cold on the first round, and unfortunately, it was just one of them things.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to note as well, you obviously dropped him as well. But no, you're right. And obviously, Archie, I don't want to make excuses for you at all. But obviously, you know, it's his first fight back with Frank. You knew that there was potentially a big fight, you know, down the line for you in the very near future, which I think, you know, we know what that fight was now. You know, you pulled up in a Lamborghini. I don't want to make excuses, but was your mind just not there, maybe?
Well, the thing is, you're right. At the end of the day, I knew that we had this fight on the 27th of July was going to be next. So you could say that I was probably overlooking that fight, but I don't think there was any excuses. I just think that shot was what I probably needed, a little bit of humble pie, and this goes to show that no matter what level you're competing at in this boxing, even though it was a fight that we wasn't interested in taking, obviously, because I wanted the big fights, just goes to show. So you get caught with 8-ounce gloves when you're not prepared, then it could be very, very dangerous. But like I say, fortunately for myself, we got caught and we recovered very well, and we moved on, and like I say, it just made it dramatic and made it interesting for the fans.
Yeah, to say the least, you know, it was a nervy watch. Let's look forward though to your next one. Like I say, July 27th, as part of that Joyce Chisora undercard at the O2 Arena, you'll be boxing Ryan Garner. Garner obviously boxed Liam Dillon on the same night as your fight last month. Did you watch Garner's fight, Arch? Because I know that you don't like to hang around much after you've boxed.
Yeah, no, I did watch it, to be fair, but I had the kids with me, and it was also, I didn't watch it as closely as what my trainers would have been watching it. But I literally flipped back and watched 30 seconds of each round, and it's just the same typical Garner that kind of I'm expecting, really. You know, he's just fit in game. But Dylan's a very tough man, and there's nothing new really with Garner. You know what you're going to get with Garner.
And talking of what we're going to get with Garner, what do we know about Garner, Arch? I mean, surely this has got to be viewed as the toughest fight of your career?
You could argue that. It probably is, you know. But then again, this is all I've ever had as my career. Someone get fit, sit on Archie's chest. Do you know what I mean? That is it. At the end of the day, he ain't going to bring anything new to the table, which I've not seen before, and what he hasn't done before. It's not like he can come in there with 4 or 5 different game plans, because we know that he's got no chance of outboxing me. So what his work rate, all he's going to try and do is just get fit and come forward. But look, at the end of the day, at this sort of level now, fitness and gameness don't win fights. And I think you'll see a masterclass. Like, people will probably think it's a 50-50 fight, but I'm confident in what I can do. And I generally believe you'll see the best Archie Sharp coming out of fights like this.
See, that leads me perfectly into this next question, because I was going to say, you've always said that the better the opposition, the better version of Archie Sharp we'll see. Obviously, I remember those days when you were the underdog against Leon Woodstock. You boxed excellently. You were down on the cards against Declan Geraghty and scored that fantastic, probably best knockout of your career. And then, you know, he's not a household name, but that fight against Art John Ramlavs, you know, he turned out to be a right nightmare. We've seen it since. He's a capable guy, but again, it was an entertaining scrap and a dominant win. It seems like when you've been in these harder fights, you've performed at your best. And yeah, I was going to ask you, will Garner bring out the best in you?
Yeah, I believe this fight is this is what I need. You know, this is why I took the fight, because people could argue and say, "Oh, Arch, why are you taking the fight? You're number 3 in the WBO or number 2 in the WBO. You're back with Frank. Kick on to a bigger fight if you like." But for myself, this is a great domestic fight. Ryan Garner's game, he's unbeaten, and this is what makes me train hard. This is what makes me get the best version of myself, and I genuinely believe that this is what I'm going to do, and I'm capable of putting on a masterclass performance. Archie Sharp today at 29 would beat Archie Sharp at 24, 25 when I boxed Leon Woodstock. So at the end of the day, I'm at the best. Well, I think I was younger than that, 23, 24. So when I was having my good years in 2019, I'm a lot better, wiser, stronger, bigger fighter than I was back then. So, and like I say, I'm going to showcase that on July 27th.
And, you know, it's important as well. Obviously, you understand better than most how mental boxing is, you know, just as much as physical, if not more, actually, more mental than physical. And there are some fighters in the past, again, I'm not making no excuses, but Callum Smith springs to mind. He used to fight someone who no one has ever heard of, and he'd look awful. But then when it was time to crank it up, he was absolutely doubtless world class. When he got in with someone better than that, you know, someone at that top level, he was world class, no question. But when he fought someone that he seemed to not really be mentally motivated for, he didn't look good. And I don't know if that's the same case with you. I don't know if it was just one off night the other night, but you know, they do say in boxing that you are only as good as your last fight. I don't think necessarily it's true all the time, but it begs the question, if you did rock up to the O2 Arena and box like you did in that last fight, how do you see it going, Arch? Will it not be good enough?
Yeah, like I say, at the end of the day, look, I like last fight I adapted, and once, obviously, after the first round, I had to keep pushing the pace, pushing forward. Where at some stages, me and Garner will be in the pocket, and you got to fight fire with fire. That's no problem at all. But the thing is, with myself, no matter what, whether it was if I'm fighting when I was fighting the other week, the other month, I'll always do enough to win. So it's not a problem. I'll always find it out to win. Like I say, you see me behind against Deco, and we pulled it out of the bag. Some 25 I know, boxed at elite level as an amateur, and done the same there as well.
And also, you got the longest win streak of any British fighter right now, 25-0. Who's kind of viewed as the A side here, Archie? I've noticed this build as Garner versus Sharp. Is there an A side?
No, do you know what it is? Listen, I haven't. Garner is the one who's contracted Frank. So you, like saying, I'm fighting for his belt. So I don't know if there's an A-B side or not. But to be fair, it's all irrelevant to me because this is what I need. Like I said, I've been inactive for a couple of years. I haven't been with Frank for a while, so it's no skin of mine. It is what it is. And once I beat Gardner, it puts me back in the mix, back on the good fights. And that super-featherweight division is buzzing at the minute. So obviously we see Cacace and Warrington been matched. So there's a load of good fights. I'll take care of business on July 27th.
And talking of actually Anthony Cacace in general, obviously he pulled off a shock upset stoppage win over Joe Cordina. I did want to get your reaction to that and also your thoughts on his first offence, which will be, as you say, against Josh Warrington.
Yeah, so I'll be honest with you, I probably wasn't expecting, I wasn't calling Cacace to win. I did think he can cause problems. I didn't think them sort of problems, you know. So he put, like you say, it's a great career. It's all about timing. He's had a very sticky career over it, and now he's had his opportunity. He performed when it mattered, and that's the difference. He performed when it mattered, and got the knockout win and won in fashion. So fair play to him.
And the thoughts on that Warrington fight, Arch?
Yeah, the Warrington fight, I think it's interesting. I didn't see that because obviously I thought he had to defend against, is it Nunez, whatever his name is, the Mexican guy. That was supposed to be his mandatory defense against him, who's 126, not 26 out. Mexican guy, a very good kid. He knocked Burchow out. So that was who he was supposed to be fighting. But I think, like I say, they made the Warrington fight, which I didn't see coming, and I think it's a good fight. I think Cacace beats Warrington.
Wow. Okay. All right. Yeah. No, it'd be interesting. And yeah, I hate to kind of end on a bit of a negative or sad note, but one thing, obviously, that you've been missing for the last two fights is Roy Jones Jr.'s input, being there physically in camp. This is obviously, pretty much possibly the biggest fight of your life here. However, we all saw the breaking news last week that Roy's son, DeAndre, committed suicide. Tragic situation, devastating. But kind of selfishly, where does that leave you, Arch?
It's tragic news, mate. I just spoke to Roy a couple of days ago, so obviously sending my love to him and the family and the prayers with him all. It's just such sad news. But in regards to myself, mate, I wouldn't want to put that sort of pressure on him, so I just leave him to it. If he wants to be here, then obviously it's lovely. It's a bonus having him here. But other than that, mate, I just leave him to it. He's got, like you say, boxing's boxing and it's my career, don't get me wrong, but I mean, for himself, it's his family, he just lost his son, so who am I to be getting onto his case about fights and stuff? So we just crack on with ourselves, with Richard and Ian, and Lee Wilkins, we've got the team, so everything's all good. We're in a good place. What we've got to do, obviously, it's such sad news, but no, the show must go on for us, so we've just got to crack on. But if he still wants to be there and come over, then obviously it'd be, like I say, it's a bonus, but no, I wouldn't even dare get on to him about any sort of boxing.
No, fair enough, man. But yeah, it's just a tragic situation, as we say. Just before we let you go, Arch, if you've got any closing words to the listeners, I think you've got the record of being on the podcast more than any other fighter, so you're loved over here.
No, lovely. Look, the thing is, stay tuned on July 27th. It's a great card anyway. But me and Ryan Garner is going to be a hell of a fight. It's going to be a great fight. Fireworks are going to be expected as always, especially, like I say, no matter what fight he's in, he always comes forward, and everybody knows as well, if we need a bite in the gum shield, then we'll have to stand in the pocket and have a dust up ourselves. So I reckon it's going to be a great fight, and so stay tuned.
Absolutely, it's a fantastic card. Listen, Archie, as always, the pleasure's mine. Thanks for your time. Best of luck on the 27th of July, and we'll speak again soon, my friend.
Definitely. God bless you. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, mate. Thank you.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, of course, the news part of the show. Couple pieces of news to mention. Firstly, Jack Catterall, friend of the show, steps in the ring with former 2-time world champion, friend of the show, Regis Prograis. That one to go down at the Co-op Live I think it's called the Co-op Live Arena or something like that. I really should have checked that beforehand. But anyway, it's going down at the Co-op Live Arena, I think it is, in Manchester. The date for that is August the 24th. It's going to be live on DAZN. I've reached out to both guys to try and get them on the show. You know, it'd be good to hear from one of them, or hopefully both of them, to be honest. But it's an interesting fight. I know that we'll talk more about it as when the fight comes round and stuff. But obviously, I think Catterall probably will be the favourite. Obviously, he hasn't been a world champion before, and Prograis, he's been a 2-time world champion. But based off their recent performances, Regis Prograis coming off that terrible performance against Devin Haney last time out, and a not so great one before that when he boxed that guy Zaria, whereas Jack Catterall's obviously coming off beating Josh Taylor. Okay, that's it for that one there. Don't think they've announced an undercard for it just yet. And then obviously the humongous announcement that took place earlier this week for a mega card that goes down on the 21st of September 2024, obviously. And it is the main man, the Sheikh, Turkey Al Sheikh, announcing this Riyadh season card that goes down in London, and it's an all-British, I think it's an all-British card, if I actually just have a little quick look for it. Almost an all-British card. You've got Anthony Cacace on there, who I'm not entirely sure. No, I think he's Irish, isn't he? I don't think he's Northern Ireland. So, yeah, should be. It's a great card here. I haven't actually mentioned any of the fights just yet, but yeah. Great fight card, like I say, goes down in Wembley. I'm going to start with the bottom of the bill. Mark Chamberlain steps in with Josh Padley. We're going to see Joshua Buatsi stepping in with Willie Hutchinson, who just upset the odds against Craig Richards. We're going to see Liam Smith, former world champion, who is coming off a bit of a strange loss to Chris Eubank Jr. in their rematch. He banged Chris Eubank Jr. out in the first one and then lost in weird circumstances in the second fight. He steps in with Josh Pretty Boy Kelly. I know that that's a fight there that you'll probably like the sound of, Eddie. We'll talk about it again closer to the time. Anthony Cacace as well, coming off a stoppage win, a big upset, huge upset, knocking out the champion Joe Cordina. He gets in with Josh Warrington. We're also going to see Tyler Denny, who we just spoke about a few moments ago, who just upset the odds against Felix Cash, stepping in with Hamza Shiraz. And then of course the main event, the mouth-watering all-British heavyweight banger affair, Anthony Joshua stepping in with Daniel Dubois for the IBF heavyweight world title, the belt that Alexander Usyk just decided to relinquish. It's a great card. Again, we'll speak about it closer to the time. What is interesting is there's a lot of guys on this card that are coming off upset wins, like, for example, Tyler Denny upsetting the odds against Felix Cash, Anthony Cacace upsetting the odds against Joe Cordina, Willie Hutchinson upsetting the odds against Craig Richards, and Daniel Dubois upsetting the odds against Filip Hrgovic. So, yeah, there's a lot of upset-minded guys on this card here. Will they be able to pull off upsets again? We shall see. Fantastic card though. Cannot wait, man. Moving now to the preview part of the show. This one goes down later tonight, actually, at the Fantasy Springs Casino in Indio, California, USA. It's going to be, I would have thought, live on DAZN, because it is an Oscar De La Hoya Golden Boy Promotions card. Just one fight to mention though. Darius Foljam, he's 11-0 with 10 KOs. The one time he went the distance was a majority decision win over Alontes Fox, another friend of the show. He's back here in a 10-rounder against the ever-so-tough Vaughan Alexander, 18-11 with a draw. The bookies are expecting Darius Foljam, I think, to stop Vaughan Alexander. I would be leaning towards Foljam to win on points, to be honest, because I think if Alontes Fox can go the distance with you, then Vaughan Alexander should be able to. No disrespect, of course, to Alontes Fox. That's my man through and through. But, Foljam had 100% knockout ratio going. He was banging everyone out, and, Alontes Fox has been stopped a few times and no one expected him to last the distance. So if he can do it, I think Vaughan will probably be able to do it. So there could be some money to be made there. Moving now to the SSE Arena in the former Odyssey Arena in Belfast, Northern Ireland. Again, this one goes down tomorrow night. It's gonna be live on TNT as well. Just one fight really of note, I think, on this card. Pierce O'Leary 14-0, stepping in with Dara Foley 22-5 with a draw. Still never been stopped, Dara Foley, but the bookies are expecting Pierce O'Leary to be the first man to do it. So it's a good, interesting fight there in Belfast for the WBC International Super Lightweight title. What else do we have? This one goes down again tomorrow night at the Entertainment and Sports Arena in Washington, D.C. I'm not entirely sure which TV station it's going to be on, but interesting fight here on the undercard. Lester Martinez, 17-0. He's a big puncher. He steps in with another big puncher, Carlos Gongora, 22-2. That one's over 10 rounds there at super middleweight. I was going to say I don't see it going a distance, but Gongora's got a heck of a chin, actually. So, yeah, I'm not entirely sure, but it could be an interesting fight. And the main event, friend of the show, Lamont Roach Jr., defending his WBA Super World Featherweight title, 24-1 with a draw. The one loss came to Jamel Herring, another friend of the show. He steps in, though, with Feargal McCrory, who I've never actually heard of the guy, but he's 16-0 and he has to be Irish with a name like that. But all the best to him. But of course, I'm pulling for my man Lamont Roach, friend of the show. Moving now to the Estral Convention Center in Neukölln, Berlin. Now, I couldn't believe that this was going ahead, but I've seen it on the schedule, and it has to simply be mentioned. We are seeing a man here who is currently 39 years of age. I actually thought he was older than that, but returned to the ring for Marco Huck, 42-5 with a draw. He's back in the ring. He's coming off almost 4 years out of it. He gets in with Evgenios Lazaridis, who's 19-5. That's over 10 rounds there at heavyweight. Marco Huck, like I say, last boxed in August of 2020. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. All the best to Captain Hook. What else do we have? This one goes down at the Olympia in Liverpool, Merseyside, United Kingdom. Just one fight to mention. It says it's going to be on DAZN. I think it's a part of the Conlan Boxing organisation. But yeah, friend of the show, Jazza Dickens, 32-5, back in action here in a 6-rounder at super featherweight against Jairo Duran, who's 15-29. If I'm not mistaken, I think Jazza Dickens lost his last fight, I think in Dubai or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. I think he got upset there. I think he was stopped, yeah. Again, that's off the top of my head, could be wrong. Moving now though to the Footprint Center in Phoenix, Arizona, USA. Over here, we're going to see this one for the WBC Super Bantamweight Female World title. By the way, it's on DAZN, of course. We're going to see this one over 10-2s. Yamalef Mercado, 23-3, defending her title against the UK's Ramla Ali, 9-1. Mercado is the favourite. She's the much more experienced girl, and yeah, you know, she's been in there with the likes of Amanda Serrano and other great fighters. So I would say she's probably got a little bit too much experience for Ramla Ali. However, Ramla Ali looked really good, avenging her sole defeat to that Mexican lady whose name currently evades me, but should be an interesting one there. Also on the card as well, we are going to see, I just jumped straight to the main event actually for this one, and I'll come down the undercard shortly. But Juan Francisco Estrada, 44-3 these days, a heck of a fighter when he was at his very, very best. I think those days are slightly behind him now, but still a very, very good record, 44-3. And yeah, he's still on a heck of a run. I mean, he hasn't lost since 2018, but again, from my opinion, I think he's lost a bit of a touch, really. Hasn't boxed though. This is the bad thing. Hasn't boxed since December of 2022. He steps right in there with Jesse Bam Rodriguez, 19-0 for Bam's WBC Super Flyweight World title. I think I'm right in saying it's Bam's title. I could be wrong actually. Is it Bam who's gone up a weight? I'm not entirely sure. I just want to double check that actually, just to clear up any confusion, because I've noticed that looks like Estrada boxed for that title last time out, but that was all the way in December 2022. So whether he's still got the belt now, I'm not entirely sure. So let me just quickly double check. Yeah, it looks like Estrada is the champion. So yeah, Bam will be moving up in weight. Obviously, he boxed Sonny Edwards last time out. For the unified with Sonny Edwards for the flyweight world title. So yeah, he's up here at Superfly. Could be interesting, that one. Obviously Estrada much more experienced, but like I say, I think he may have lost a step or two. Also on that card as well, we're going to see Sonny Edwards step. He's 20-1 these days, obviously coming off that loss to Bam last time out, in what was a really, really good fight, by the way. But yeah, good to see Sonny back in the ring, another friend of the show, and he steps in the ring with Adrian Curiel. Yeah, Adrian Curiel, who again is a little bit upset-minded. We saw him stop Nonshinga, I think, on that card in Monaco, and then obviously lost the rematch. He's not actually known as a puncher. He's not really a big puncher at all, Adrian Curiel. But yeah, it should be a decent boxing match, but I would definitely lean with Sonny Edwards to win that fight on points. I think that's the way it probably goes. So yeah, like I say, just good to see Sonny back in a ring. Very, very good fighter who dared to be great, stepping in with a pound-for-pound fighter like Bam Rodriguez, and he found out the hard way, obviously. He took a bit of a beating in that fight towards the last few rounds, but up until that point, before that turning point, it was a fantastic, fantastic fight. Right, I'm kind of flying through everything here myself, Eddie. I'm coming to the final card now. It goes down at the James L. Knight Center in Miami Beach, Florida, USA. It's going to be live on ESPN. It's going to be live on Sky Sports. Again, this is Saturday. Let's touch on the undercard first. We're going to see Nico Ali Walsh, 9-1. He's back in a 6-rounder at middleweight against Sona Akale, who's 9-1 as well. But Sona Akale beat Nico Ali Walsh, took his O. So this is the rematch here. It's over 6 rounds, which I think by this point Nico should really be boxing in 8 rounders or at least 8. Really should be at 10 rounders, I think, going into his 11th pro fight, but certainly should at least be 8 rounds. I don't really want to see him in a 6-rounder here, but it is what it is. Also on all the best to him, by the way. Hopefully he can get his revenge there. Also on the card as well, Emiliano Vargas, 10-0, stepping in the ring with Jose Zaragoza, who is 9-8 with 2 draws. That's over 8 rounds at super lightweight. Rohan Polanco as well on the undercard, another really good prospect, got a good win against Keith Hunter, friend of the show. He is, like I say, 12-0. He's back in an 8-rounder here against Luis Ramos, who's 23-4. Also on the card, return to the ring for Rabisi Ramirez. He's 13-2. He's back in a 10-rounder at featherweight against Brandon Benitez, who's 21-2. They're expecting Rabisi Ramirez to have way too much for his opponent here. He's a massive, massive favourite. However, he is coming off a loss, of course, last time out to Rafael Espinoza, who we spoke about in the review part of the show, the 6'1" freak of nature. All the best to Mr. Rabisi Ramirez. And yeah, the main event, Teofimo Lopez, 20-1, defending his WBO super lightweight world title against Canada's Steve Claggett, who currently has a record of 38-7 with 2 draws. Steve Claggett, I wouldn't want to call him a club fighter. That might be a little bit harsh, to be honest with you, but I think he's limited in his skill set. He can certainly punch. He's got 26 KOs from his 38 wins, but he's a limited fighter. He's a tough guy. He's only been stopped once in his 7 losses, but like I said, I don't quite think he's at this level. He's on a heck of a run. He's kind of probably earned himself a world title shot, to be honest with you. He's put together 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 wins in a row since losing to Mathieu Germain back in 2021, and that was a split decision loss there over 10 rounds. But yeah, he's lost to guys that are not really on Teofimo's level. Let's be honest. He's lost to Yves Ulysses Jr., Danny O'Connor, Chris Van Heerden back in the day, Konstantin Ponomarev. I wonder what happened to him. I remember him being about 34-0, I think it was, and then he just kind of disappeared. Yeah, he's 35-4 these days. Okay, that's another story for another day. We're not going to touch on that. But yeah, the only thing I'll say about Teofimo Lopez, Eddie, is that in my opinion, since he's moved up from lightweight to super lightweight, obviously he's done well to pick up a belt. But I actually have his record at super lightweight as 2-2. That's my honest opinion. I would say he's 2-2. He moved up there and obviously managed to have his first fight at the weight against Pedro Campa, stopped him. I think he lost to Sandor Martin. I think he beat Josh Taylor fair and square. And I think he lost last time out as well to Jermaine Ortiz. So I would have him 2-2 in his last 4 fights. I don't think he's the same fighter at 140. I've said it what feels like more than 4 times, even though that's impossible because he's only had 4 fights there. But he doesn't seem the same fighter. However, he's probably still got a little bit too much for the Canadian. But yeah, a lot of people are expecting Teofimo to get a stoppage here, which would be the first stoppage in a 3-fight points victory streak. What's your thoughts here? I'm not expecting you to know too much about Claggett, and also your thoughts on any other fights that we've mentioned.
Yeah, I don't know much about the other kid we mentioned. However, I do know about Teofimo, and I do agree that aside from the Josh Taylor fight, he hasn't been dominant at 140. And to be quite honest, I mean, he hasn't looked really good in all of the fights, especially some of the ones we even expect him, like with why am I drawing a blank on his name? The former undisputed at I think 35 at 135. What the heck is his name again?
Josh Taylor.
No.
Sorry, at 135.
Was at 135? Yeah, lost to Devin Haney twice. George Kambosos. He hasn't looked to his potential. So, being that he was, upset by, his name, fucking lost his name again. What is wrong with
Kambosos.
me? Though he was upset by Kambosos in a fight that it was supposed to be like, not necessarily a coming out party, but like basically saying like, this is after the Lomachenko thing. This is his dominant, time. It's about to be, he's going to be one of the top guys in the world, one of the highest rated fighters, in any weight class, pound for pound. And then he goes and gets beat by a guy who wasn't expected to even be able to, compete with him. And this kind of situation here with a guy who's a tough guy. Like I said, I don't know much about him, but he's the kind of guy that can come in and upset the apple cart. I'm not saying that it's going to happen. I'm not even expecting that, but it's just that kind of thing. So, he gets a little sometimes too overconfident. And I think that plays a part. Sometimes you need to have a little humility with your confidence. I mean, be confident, expect to win, expect to dominate, expect to do all of those things. But you do have to you got to respect the sport and respect the fighters in it. You understand what I'm saying? So I think going through what he's gone through in the past, I'm pretty sure, even if it doesn't show all the time, he's probably a little more mature, thinking a little bit more, all right, I got to win this fight. Not that it's already a foregone conclusion. You know what I mean? He's got to get in there and take care of business. So hopefully for him and people who support him, and, I'm a guy that likes his style, like the way he fights. I want to see him do well in fights that he's expected to win. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's always nice to, see a new guy come in and shock and upset the odds, especially, because that's kind of the way I came into it a little bit. So, but, like I said, this guy's talent is extremely high. I think he's capable of being one of the best fighters that we have in the world, and he needs to show that, and he needs to be dedicated. Not saying that he's not, but dedicated to winning and being ready on the night, and not thinking and looking past, opponents. Because I think that's a lot of times where a lot of these guys, I was gonna say young guys, but a lot of these fighters, some of these guys are looking past, looking beyond what they're facing. And I think you gotta focus on what's in front of you. Win that fight, whether you look good or not, win the fight, then move on to the next. So hopefully in this case, and you know, he can do that. And I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's always good to see Teofimo box. I do enjoy watching him. I'm hoping that he can recapture some of that old form, though, like I say, because I was saying he's 2-2, in my opinion, in his last 4. But if you go back to his last 5, then that would actually include his legitimate loss to George Kambosos. And if you go back to his last 6, then that would include the very narrow victory against Vasyl Lomachenko that you touched on. You've got to go right back to that fight 7 fights ago when he boxed Richard Comey to the last time where he looked $1 million. And that was a great win to stop Richard Comey in just 2 rounds. Another friend of the show. But yeah, like I say, Teofimo, he's a friend of the show. I'd like to see him do well. I'd like to see him get a nice knockout. But Steve Claggett will not come to lie down, and he will give it his all. He definitely won't be turning up for a paycheck. He's not that type of fighter. Yeah, very proud man. Should be a good one. Anyway, that brings the preview part to a close. There wasn't too much talking for Eddie to do this week, unfortunately. In part 1, we did the review part. Then we welcomed our special guest. In part 2, we did the news and the preview part. The final thing for me to do is to come in with the outro, which I'll do in just a few seconds. Okay, and this wraps up episode 454 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Eddie Chambers has been with me for the duration of the show. The biggest thanks of all goes out to you, the listeners, though I do want to give a special thank you to this week's guest, the undefeated super-featherweight world contender, Mr. Archie Sharp. Like I say, that is everything from myself. Enjoy your weekends, people. Stay safe, and we shall see you all again same time next week.